This is the first episode of the Leon County Humane Society Rescue Podcast. What we're going to do is introduce each of our staff members today. I'll just start with me. My name is Katie Stryker. I'm the graphic design and marketing coordinator. I've been with LCHS for about 5 years, and I also co-own Tally Cat Cafe, so most of my background and knowledge is honestly cat-related. Up next, we've got our director, Lisa Glunt.
Lisa Glunt. I've been with the Leon County Humane Society for 11 years. And prior to this, I was with the Tallahassee Animal Service Center, and I actually met our dog coordinator back in the day at Animal Aid.
My name is April Ryder, and I'm Director of Operations. I have been with Leon County Humane Society for 9 years, and my animal background runs everything from feral cat colony management to fostering.
And I'll just stop now. We are in our office, so we do have several kennels surrounding us with cats. Some of them are happier to be here than others. And then we also have Dax joining us today, under the table for now, but I'm sure on top of the table later.
Okay, my name is Amy Raddar. I run the dog program here at Leon County Humane Society. I have worked here for 16 years. My animal background is, before here, I worked at Animal Aid for 5 years, and before that, I was a full-time volunteer with the animal shelter. I am also dabble in dog training, so I am a certified dog trainer.
My name is Kayla Smith. I am the cat program coordinator here at Leon County Humane Society. I've been here for about 8 months, so long. My animal background, I have worked in private practice as a veterinary technician. I worked at the animal shelter for several years, and way at the beginning of my career, I did doggy daycare.
I am Courtney Kendrick. I'm the volunteer coordinator. I've been here for about a year now, and my animal background is, prior to this, I co-owned, I still do, a cat cafe that works with the rescue that we are today.
Co-owner with me. We're both co-owners. Okay. So that's each of us. It's a very small staff. Everyone else that works with us is a volunteer or foster. So this is all there is. You got us. What we're going to do from here on is we're going to talk about where we are so far this year as far as intake, what these numbers sort of reflect for our community, what concerns we have, and just kind of be able to give you guys a further insight into our day-to-day and how to improve your own community through animal rescue. For Amy, do you want to talk a little bit about what the dog intake looks like this year? If you're seeing, we have a new spay and neuter clinic open in the community, so we should be seeing numbers go down. Are you seeing that reflection pop up yet as far as puppies, dogs coming in, or are we still in the thick of it?
No. We're still in the thick of it. Last year and this year was probably 2 of the hardest years for me as far as puppies. Bottle babies, wow, we got pummeled last year on bottle babies. Right now, we have taken in, just for this year, probably 3 to 4 litters of bottle babies. We have 2 moms right now with 17 puppies between them. We have had, it's just puppy palooza, it's puppies everywhere. It's hard. It's making it harder for the adult dogs and for the older dogs, because people won't, they'll adopt a puppy over an older dog because they think let's face it, the puppies are cute. They're adorable. I don't think some people put a lot of thought into what it's gonna be when they take that puppy home and after the cuteness wears off. And I do it myself sometimes. I get that puppy fever and I foster them, and then 24 hours after I'm like, oh, you've gotta go. You gotta go. You pee and poo everywhere and you chew everything. So I think, but it does. It hurts the adult dogs when there are so many puppies around, but also we're already overpopulated. Why are we having so many damn puppies?
It's a good, and like, we're not even open intake. So everybody that reaches out to you and is like, I have puppies, we can't say yes every time. And there's already so many. Do you feel like the overflow of puppies, are you worried about what that's going to look like? And are we able to trust people to get those spayed and neutered if they're not coming into us?
No, I do worry about that. Number one, I just worry about where they end up. Like, I know how we do things. And I know that we spay and neuter, and we are very diligent about being able to pick capable homes. We do our best. But I do worry about the ones that I have to say no to. It hurts my heart every time I have to say no. That's why we are so overrun right now, is because I do worry about that. And there are days that I can say, you know what, we're out our max and I can't take these. And then there are days that I'll say, you know what, we'll just have to figure it out, because I worry so much about where they go. And yeah, I see it all the time on Facebook, like people giving away puppies, and then I'm like, oh my God, because hopefully they're getting spayed or neutered, and we offer, vouchers to get them spayed and neutered, but obviously that is not enough, because here we are in pretty much the same situation with spay and neuter that we were probably 10 years ago. Honestly, and that's sad to say.
I think it's actually worse. I think it's worse than, I was thinking about that in preparation for this podcast. I looked back from years at the shelter and years at Animal Aid, and even at the shelter, I remember, 12, 15 years ago, there would be a dry spell on puppies and kittens, and we'd have several months where people would come in and they'd say, oh my gosh, your whole kitten room is empty. When are you going to have kittens back again? And we'd have to tell people, they're coming. Just know that they're coming. But we'd have 3 to 4 months where you would never see kittens. And I feel like we never see that anymore. It's just year round puppies and kittens. In the winter, when you don't expect it, when years ago we didn't expect it, now it's just nonstop.
Do you think that COVID has played a role into that, or do you think that it's just how shelters have been managing the increasing numbers is limited intake? Do you think that which one's playing a bigger role?
I think it started with shelters putting too much responsibility on a community that, shelters were saying for years, don't bring them in. It's more dangerous for an animal to be in a shelter environment. Rehome them on your own. But like Amy said, you got to trust that person's going to fix that animal before they rehome them. And I think, unfortunately, shelters and not even just shelters, but the big movements, the big campaigns were giving too much, I guess they were thinking too positively upon people. And if you're tired of a puppy, you're not going to hold on to it for another 2 to 3 weeks to get it fixed. You want it out. And I think that started it, but COVID absolutely, it seems like it made it 10 times worse, because for months and, for some places in a year, vet clinics weren't prioritizing, they couldn't prioritize spays and neuters. And so now we're kind of reaping the negative of that, and we're just seeing puppies and kittens everywhere.
April, you have a face.
Oh no, I was just thinking about a lot of what I see is they feel deterred for one reason or another from the shelter, and what we're seeing a lot of is, they, for one reason or another, there's a reputation there for, I wouldn't want to bring an animal I find in there, right? That's what I hear from a lot of people. So if they're afraid to take an animal to the shelter, they're also afraid to get that animal fixed. They don't realize that they can get an animal fixed at a low cost. They just kind of do nothing because in their minds, doing nothing is better than getting a cat euthanized at the shelter or a dog euthanized at the shelter.
I think there has definitely been an increase in the past few years of just people thinking euthanasia is the worst possible thing that could happen to an animal. Being in a shelter is the worst possible thing that could happen to an animal. And there are definitely shelters across the U.S. that are truly, truly horrible. And our own shelter is great, but doesn't have the funding to be, a great place for animals. No animal wants to go into the shelter, but I think, leaving it to people to get the animals spayed and neutered and get them vet care, especially with the costs of vet care going up and where we are after COVID, it seems impossible that we're going to see a downtrend. in animals unless people trust the shelter more. And
Or are aware of the additional resources. Like,
right.
not everyone knows. I talk to people when they call us up and they don't know what to do. It's not common knowledge. It's something that is left, until it really involves them, is left up to rescues and the shelter to deal with. But, people can be empowered.
People can be empowered, and that's why education is part of our mission and part of the reason for this podcast. I think most of our listeners are just going to have a general interest in animals, but we're hoping that people are able to see more of the resources and the behind the scenes and why it's important to be involved in the community and with what's happening at your local shelter. Kayla, do you want to talk about what you've seen for kittens so far?
So, since I wasn't here last year, I only have numbers to go off of, and I'd say we're pretty on par with how we have been previous years.
We definitely are. You're doing a great job.
Oh, thank you. I'm drowning, but I'm trying. It does absolutely feel like there's so many coming all at once, and I appreciate how many people are trying to wait until the kittens are weaned. They're still not waiting quite as long as I would prefer. In a perfect world, they would be with mom longer than the bare minimum. But I don't think it's going to get better anytime soon, both for the reasons that y'all were talking about earlier, but also, I don't know if we're allowed to talk about climate change, or if that's too
that was banned from Florida.
We're not allowed to mention that. But it is, as the year is being warmer for more of the year, there's longer mating and brooding seasons, and so that's part of why we're having longer puppy and kitten seasons. And we're just kind of, it's not going to get better. It's only going to get worse. So hopefully that can be deterred some with the extra resources. And absolutely, there's so many people who say they don't know the extra resources, but there's a lot of people who want to do the right thing enough to bring them to us, but not to put forward that much effort. They want to do the easy right thing, which is not the best right thing.
We know that there's very rarely a catch-all answer that covers everything. There's always shades of gray. It's never black and white. It's very rarely step 1, step 2, step 3. Every animal's different.
This is not sounding like the most optimistic, encouraging talk. However, this is like the reason we've been wanting to do this is because it's realistic. It's people ask us all the time, they say, how are you guys doing? And every single time I want to say, oh, we're drowning. But it is the reality. And the only way to, I think, find relief for others in this field is by encouraging other people to help us and get involved.
We're definitely not alone. We work with other rescues in Tallahassee and the surrounding areas and other shelters, and each and every one is seeing this increase and lack. There's not enough fosters and not enough donors. It just seems like it's not a positive outlook right now, and I'd love to kind of change the trajectory of that if we can. I think a lot of the problem too is people are coming into Florida. Florida's a lot of people come in, a transient community. So they are used to maybe northern states that don't have that warm weather all year round. They don't think of cats and dogs as being everywhere. I'm from New Hampshire. So in New Hampshire, we don't have puppy and kitten season year round, and they're kind of hard to come by. So I think people also think they're doing a good thing when they're putting puppies and kittens out into the world, because they're just not educated on how it is here, because here is vastly different from what shelters are seeing in the north. And that's why we're seeing more and more rescues and shelters turning to transports, which Amy has done a really great job of integrating into her program. If you want to talk about that, Amy.
Yeah, it just got to the point where I was so frustrated because we as a organization could not take in all these animals. We didn't have the fosters, we don't have the fosters, we don't have the money, I don't have enough time to take in all these dogs. But I was getting just worn down because my inbox was full of asks. My cell phone was ringing and dinging, all the time with, can you take these dogs? And it's not even from private people. It was from shelters, local rural shelters saying, hey, like, can you help us? It's terrible. Can you just help us? And I just thought, like, we can't absorb them. But I felt horrible having to keep saying no. It seems like that's all I was saying. So we developed a transport where we take in dogs. It's another nonprofit that I'm part of, and we take in dogs, we spay and neuter them, we temperament test them, we spay neuter, we fully vet them, and we beg other shelters to take them. We send pictures. It's time consuming, I won't lie. It's a lot. But it just is another avenue to help us get some dogs out that would normally not have a chance. Definitely would not have a chance.
I don't think a lot of our listeners can even imagine not having even animal control. And a lot of the places that you are working with, they don't have that. They've got like a little trailer on a piece of property and a person or two in charge of that entire community's animal population.
It's true.
It's hard to think of Tallahassee as lucky, but we are.
Compared to, absolutely we are. Hey, let's stop for just a minute.
Yeah. So we're gonna jump back into it. We had to take one of the dogs out. No. Thank you. So with those other shelters that don't have that funding, Amy, what sort of like conditions are they in? Because we know our dogs all stay in foster care, and people generally know what life at the shelter at the Tallahassee Leon Animal Services Center looks like. But what does it look like in those shelters? And I mean, obviously we know that everybody that's there is doing their best to make it, as okay as it is. But when you have no money and you're just one person in a tiny building,
Yeah. Well, a lot of them are just concrete chain link. There's a building and it's got concrete floors and it has chain link kennels. Most of them are not air conditioned or heated. It's pretty dismal. The dogs do not get out. They're not walked. And they don't have play groups like our shelter does. So they're just there until they're either adopted, transferred out, or euthanized.
and what would you say generally happens? It's most like our local shelter has a great live release rate, and we can talk more about what that means later on, but like what's their outcomes?
I think it depends on the area. Like, it depends on the county. Again, they do the best they can with very little. Because let's be honest, animals are not a high priority in most governments, unfortunately. But it depends on the county. Sometimes they have zero chance. Like, sometimes it's if they're not transported out. Some of these shelters do not have foster programs. They do not have adoption programs. So if another rescue don't step in and help them, then the dogs there and the cats there are euthanized. Some of them have some programs like that. And hopefully, some dogs and cats get out.
And that puts a lot of pressure on the rescues that see that. And I think that you do a really good job of saying no when we're full and when you're full and there's too much on your plate. But what do you think about other rescues and other people seeing that? It can sort of trigger a knee-jerk, we have to take all of these dogs, we have to put them all somewhere else. And I mean, if this is the standard of care, then we can do better. But is it always humane care? What do you think?
I think that people who run the shelters or these rural shelters, I think that their goal is to get the animals out. I personally wish they'd be a little bit more picky and careful about where they send them. But I get it. Like, they don't want to they don't want to euthanize dogs all day, every day. So they do not understand there are worse fates than death. And so they just want to get them out. And live release to them is live release. It doesn't matter where they're, sometimes to them it doesn't matter where they're going, because they don't know where they're going. A lot of them don't take the time to visit these places that they're sending them. I think for small rescues, it's hard to go in there. It's hard for me to go in there and see these dogs languishing that I know don't have most likely does not have a future, and to have to then turn around and leave them there. I have just seen so much in my life because I've been an animal rescue for a long time, and I know that I have a motto. I can do a few things really, really well, or I can do a lot of things kind of mediocre or shitty, and I'd rather do something really well. Like, I'd rather make a big difference in those dogs. I can't save all dogs. That's something that was hard for me when I first started this to realize, but eventually you hit that brick wall and you realize, oh shit, I can't save them all. And so I'm sure that's hard for other people too. And I think they get in over their head, and they think that their solution is better or as good, and it might be, but it's still not enough. It's not what that dog needs. And I think sometimes people get very confused about that.
And when they do go ahead and pull the dog without having the resources and the time, what are some risks? Because eventually those dogs, are going to have to go somewhere, and being just shoved somewhere until they can find space for them isn't, like you said, good for the dogs.
Yeah.
And eventually it will fall into other rescues. But what will the dogs be like when they do?
It depends on the dog. Not a lot of dogs, for me, in my experience, not a lot of dogs can go sit in that kind of situation where they're not handled every day. They don't get any training. They're not in a home where they can learn the rules and boundaries of living with people and in a house. Not a lot of dogs can, you have a window of time to catch them in that. And if it's not, then you're going to get a brown dog with issues. There's a varying level of issues, but you're going to get a dog with issues. Now, whether those dogs can be put in a home with somebody who kind of knows what they're doing and work them out, that's case to case. But, I think small rescues, they try their best, but they get overwhelmed and it's the same for cats. Like, if you can have a building that's air conditioned and heated, and you can put 100 cats in there, mm-hmm. and feed and water them every day. But if you don't handle those cats, and you don't pet those cats, and you don't, give them a normal environment, those aren't going to be super friendly cats. And the dogs are the same exact way. Mm-hmm. Dogs need, for me, they need as much as cats. It's just what they need is different. And you can take them and put them in a kennel. That's why I don't really like to board our dogs. Lisa knows, I do it when we absolutely have to. I do not like to board our dogs. That's why I get on Facebook and I beg for fosters. Because that dog is not gaining anything in that kennel at that vet office or that boarding resort or boarding facility, but having a safe place to stay and food and water. And in an emergency, in a tight fit, that's fine. But for any prolonged period of time, that is not what a dog needs. A dog needs to be in a home around a family, learning stuff from other dogs, from the people who live there. And when you take dogs and I call it warehousing, when you warehouse them, you're going to get dogs that are scared of everything. They're going to be reactive. You're going to see behaviors not so great out of them because they're frustrated. They're absolutely frustrated. They sit in these kennels. They don't have crap to do. They don't have anything to do all day, and they're frustrated. So for me, that's what I've seen. That's my experience anyway.
Lisa, I saw you scribbling something down. Did you have something to add?
I just, Amy nailed, I think, all of that. I think a lot of people frown on those rural shelters that we've gone to that are just gut wrenching. Some of them. It's not the fault of the people that work at those shelters, and the same with some of these rescues. I mean, for years now, when people call here and they ask us to take an animal, if we can't take that animal at that time, we'll try everything possible. We'll give them resources. We'll tell them, options that they have. We'll try to provide them a voucher to get the animal fixed so that they can rehome it responsibly. But I mean, we always warn people, there are things worse than euthanasia if you're worried about taking that animal to a shelter. And if you are taking it to a rescue group, you need to go and put eyes on that group and the environment where that animal is going to be, because too often places start with good intentions and then, we've seen how people get overwhelmed. And even those people, I mean, the fault is put on those people sometimes, and you got to remember, there has to be responsibility put on that person who's trying to rehome the animal. Whether they did the right thing and they stopped on the road and picked up an animal, or it's their own pet that they got and they, for some reason, can't keep any longer. If they have committed to that animal in some form, Kayla mentioned earlier, she said, if you're going to do the right thing, don't do, I'm messing up your words, but you said don't do the easiest right thing, basically. Like, take those extra steps. Don't just think that once an animal's out of your hands, it's in a better place. That's why I think I've always been so proud of this organization, is because you guys gotta know that there's a big dog playing around with a ball here. That's a lot of what you've been hearing. But I've always been so proud of this organization, because a person, who's in a desperate situation doesn't get an automatic no to an animal coming into our care because they live outside of a city, city lines or county lines, or, because of even at times, since we're right near the border of Georgia, at times out of state. If we can help that animal, it's more so, is that something that we are able to take on responsibly on our own and find a better situation for. And especially with all these rural counties around us, Leon County Humane Society has really been a lifesaver over and over and over again.
That's
True. And, it's like I've always said, and I've said it to hundreds of people, and I'll keep saying it. Like, dogs do not know geography. They don't know that they're across the state lines from us or from somebody who can help them. All they know is that they're in need and they need help. And if at any point I can help one, I'm going to help it.
So when we talk about finding rescues that you can support, what should people be looking for? You said to go there, Lisa, and lay eyes up, but what should people be looking out for when they're looking at rescues that they want to support or give an animal to?
I would say, number one, I would look at the numbers and think, is this group able to take on the amount of animals they have plus this additional one that I'm asking them to take on? I would look at the environment itself, the conditions that they're in, the space. Do they have, what looks to be a clean enclosure, a clean area? Do they have the blessing of tons of volunteers out there exercising the animals, giving them that enrichment that they need? Because, Amy, just in talking about boarding, it's no different than a shelter to a long-term boarding situation to a rescue group. If an animal's not getting that enrichment and exercise it needs, it's, mentally, you can't expect that animal to thrive.
It's not help unless it's actually a different situation. And I think a lot of them are just offering the same situation sometimes. You can't make him be quiet. You can't.
He doesn't understand potty.
Dogs don't understand geography or podcasts.
No.
They don't.
No. Nor does he care.
No, I don't think so. I think this has been a really good discussion on our local animal overpopulation issue and what we'd like people to look out for. So the last thing I want to do is go around the circle and have each of us share one thing that we really wish the public understood better or understood at all about rescue. Lisa, would you like to start?
I think for me it would be the toll that it takes on the people involved. You know, I say all the time, I can take the animals. Give me the animal. Maybe not Dax, but I can take the animals. A lot of the time, it's the people. It's you know, I probably get several calls every weekend or emails every weekend, even from people I know saying, "Hey, I just found these kittens," and you know, it's exhausting. So people need to step up if they're in a situation where they can help. Or if they are in a situation themselves, they really need to consider, is this something that I might be able to take upon myself and not put on the people that are already burdened with it on the daily?
It's a good point. April?
I often say that animals are the bottom 3% of giving and finding. So I think about that very often when people call up and immediately the first time they've ever found an animal, they have an expectation that we're here, ready, waiting. They know we're just going to catch them in a basket. Everything's going to be great.
Money rains down.
Right.
Yeah.
And honestly, if money was the solution to all of the problems, we wouldn't have the problems that we have. I think people are the biggest factor. We do, what Lisa said, we do need people to step up. If that one person who finds an animal is willing to, you know, extend themselves for a period of time, make the accommodations for the animal, take care of it until it can be put into a rescue that's legitimate and ready to take it on. I think a lot of the times the answer can be yes, the rescues can help, but you know, there needs to be something to bridge the gap. So people stepping up.
They can help, but just not at the snap of anyone's fingers.
We can be a resource, we can be a guide, we can be an advocate, you know, we can do a lot of things if they can be the foster, or if they can just be there long enough for the animal until there's an opening for them. So I think that's a big part of it.
I'm gonna ask Courtney now to go.
Just keep the question.
Absolutely. So, Courtney, what is one thing you wish that the public understood about rescue?
So last week I got a call, somebody who wanted to utilize our pet pantry, and she wanted it for the litter of puppies that she had her dog to have. And I had to ask her, I was like, why was your dog not spayed or neutered? We have spay neuter vouchers, we can provide that to you. And she said she really wanted her dog to have a litter of puppies before spaying her. And I asked, why? What is your plan with the puppies? The plan was to sell the puppies. However, she can't even currently feed the puppies, so it doesn't really sound like there was much of a plan at all. And all I'm saying really is, how can you look to use Humane Society resources when you aren't even doing the due diligence of protecting the animals that you're caring for?
Yeah, that's infuriating. And I think the other thing that she's going to run into, and I think that a lot of people who, we call them backyard breeders, want to breed their dog or let their dog be bred. I don't think a lot of the time they even really look into who breeds with their dog. They end up having to call us to place those puppies. They're not going to make money off those puppies. Breeding dogs,
lose money on
they
those
are.
puppies, or
If they do it right, they'll
Breeding
spend
dogs
more.
responsibly, getting them, dewormed, vaccinated, all that good stuff that keeps them healthy, that's expensive.
Mom's not been spayed. I doubt she's seen a vet, so who knows the condition mom is in.
Oh, and who knows what genetic condition she's passing down to the babies. And that's going to be put on someone else. So we could get a call 6 months from now from someone that took one of these puppies that needs assistance because the puppy has issues. And it just continues to create, it's one decision that has put so much strain on rescues, and it's so unfair. I hope Kayla's thing is more positive for what you wish the public knew.
Wow.
No pressure.
A lot of pressure.
Gonna disappoint you. I'm so sorry.
Oh, that makes sense.
That's sounds normal for Kayla.
So I wish that the public,
I don't know if it's you.
that there is a
bigger picture. People, and I totally get this, they come in and they are thinking about the specific animal that they're having an issue with. They have blinders on. And so they think, well, this cat is friendly. I don't think it should live outside. It should go inside. Well, then that takes a spot from another cat that maybe really needs us because it will die without us, not just because it'll be less happy without us. And I remember working at the shelter, and we would say, hey, we're full. There's going to have to be, someone's going to have to go down to make room for your dog. Say, oh, well, but my dog's nice. It's fine. Well, that's someone else's dog that you're dealing with. So that's not very nice either. The people who refuse to go to a kill shelter or an open intake shelter. So instead they go to a limited admission shelter and give some money. Well, that money could have gone farther helping that shelter that you didn't want to give your dog to, because you're looking at the right now specific problem instead of the big problem. Nothing's ever going to get solved if we don't take off our blinders and look at the whole picture.
I can actually provide a statistic to blow your mind.
I'd love that idea.
Yeah. Okay. So there's 70 million unowned animals in the United States. That was the last estimate. That was by ASPCA. So 70 million, right? 70. So then we take, and a lot of them are unowned, feral, so-called feral cats or dogs, right? A lot of them are community cats. A lot of them are rural dogs, just living in people's yards off of whatever scraps they're given, right? And this is the United States. This is not decades ago somewhere far, far away. Okay, so that being said, about 7 million animals actually make it into shelters per year.
So 10%?
So 10%. Shelters and rescues are touching 10% of the problem. There is an overpopulation problem that if it varies by county, it varies by municipality on how it's dealt with. But as long as there's an overpopulation problem, we will still be here and we will still be needed. But yeah.
Somebody staying or neutering their one pet that's not going to put us out of business is what.
Absolutely not. And we don't need another puppy.
No.
No one needs another puppy.
Amy, one thing you wish the public knew about rescue, and please be nice.
I'll just try to be nice. Gosh, that's hard because you try when you think of the one thing, you try to think of the most important thing, and there's so many most important things. I guess the thing to where April thinks globally, I think locally. And I think that people need to understand that we do have an overpopulation here in Leon County and the surrounding counties, and it's bad. Like, it's probably worse than it has been in, I can't even remember when. But it is a community problem. It's not a just problem. It's not a, guessing county patrol problem. It's not a Tallahassee, Leon County, and the service problem. It is a community problem. And to fix it, we have to have community help. Like, I get it. Everybody's struggling.
Amy's currently struggling as Dax turns her chair around. Dax is,
Dax. He's here. Sorry. That it is a community problem, and that's the only way we're going to get out of it. I get it. People are struggling. I know times are hard. And money is not the fix to all of this. I mean, it's just not. It's, keep an eye on people whose dogs aren't spayed and neutered and try to talk to them about getting dogs and cats spayed and neutered. I remember when I worked with Animal A, gosh, that was in 2000 or 2005, somewhere around there. We had progressed to the point where it was almost embarrassing for a person to come in, for them, not us, for them to have an unaltered animal, because we had just drove it in, and we just made it unpopular to have an unaltered animal. Now we're back to the point where, it seems like, well, it's all right. It's not all right. It's not all right to reproduce something that we have never had enough homes for. And now we're in a situation where we don't have nowhere near enough homes, enough money, enough foster homes, enough, anything for them. So it is a community problem, and we all just need to put our boots on, get in the trenches, and fix it.
I think that you've nailed it. I think that's mine too. The thing that I wish the public understood about rescue is this staff of 6 is not going to fix it. It's going to take the community getting involved, holding your friends and family accountable, fixing the cats that you feed, fixing your own pets, your own dogs. I don't care how cute your dog is. She doesn't need to have puppies. I'm sure she's wonderful. I'd love to pet her. I don't need her to have puppies. And if you're not already volunteering with a rescue, I recommend doing that, or at least fostering once. Just one time. I promise you can do it for a couple months. Isn't there a statistic? I know April will know.
Statistic.
That's a good statistic.
I guess that's what I'm good for.
If everybody...
If every household in America would foster one time, we would end pet overpopulation within 10 years. End.
Don't sound nice.
Doesn't it? I'd love to be put out of business.
I would. Yeah. That's one of the things that has stuck with me is somebody said to me once, you should be grateful that you have this job, and you should be grateful that animals are reproducing to give you this job. And I'd love to not have this job, to be honest. I would love to not need to work this job. I would love to not be in this field. I am okay if there are fewer cats and dogs. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
Can I tap onto mine?
Yes.
Of course, April added to it, or maybe you added to it just now.
Who knows?
You gave a statistic on fostering.
You can't shut me up. Go ahead.
I asked one more thing. I'm tacking this on to mine. That people, if they do listen to this and they say, you know what, I want to give it a chance and I want to foster, be realistic. We have incredible animals that come into our care. And you would be surprised how many of these animals are already house trained or incredibly friendly, end up being great with other animals, great with children. I mean, so many wonderful things. But remember, these are animals coming in new to us. So if you do decide to foster, just be realistic. Let us know what you can take on. But if you want something that's only 5 pounds, hypoallergenic, completely house trained, then you don't then you need to broaden what you might be able to do. And people would be surprised at some of the foster applications we get, because I would say, what do you think, Amy and Kayla, for every 10 that you get, how many do you think end up actually fostering an animal?
Out of 10, at least. Yeah, one, but
I think that sounds like a reasonable...
And please be patient if you contact us, because we are drowning, like at work and at home. We are fostering as well, almost all of us, and we are gonna try and get with you. That you are far from the only person. Even when you're offering to help, we love you. But you're not the only person that we have to reach out to.
So just be patient.
And that's another thing I want people to understand is that this is not an 8-hour-a-day job. This is by far nowhere near an 8-hour-a-day job. And we work weekends. We work probably 10 to 14 hours a day. But also on top of that, we all foster. We all have fosters. Constantly. So, and multiple fosters. So maybe we're not, pooping out rainbows. Maybe we're not the most happy and energetic. But it's because we're tired. And also, people need to understand that this organization personally, this is not a job for us. This is our life. We don't clock in at 8, leave at 5. We're not, we take it home with us. We internalize it. We worry about it. We sleep over it. This is our life. And we're okay with that. We would just like our lives to be a little easier.
It's also hard. My brain's broken. I think almost every day, I'm like, I've been doing this for 6 years. Why is it not done? I don't know how Amy is still going, because I'm like, why haven't we fixed this yet? It should be resolved. How long we got to do this?
I will tell you, for me, it was a rude awakening for me. I think, I don't even remember the day. I do remember around about the time in my life where the reality just washed over me that, oh shit, like, this is not going to get fixed in my lifetime.
Yes, yeah.
I've been working my butt off 24 hours a day just about for years, and this is not going to get fixed in a long time. That is daunting, and that is like, it took me a couple of months of like just sheer depression for me to figure out, like for me to pick myself back up and be like, okay, like this is where we are, but we're going to do this and I'm going to try this. And so I get it. Yeah.
No, I can actually remember the exact moment that I had that like little breakdown. Is we had just gotten back from Animal Expo, and I just realized this is never going to end in my lifetime. That's
Like
It could though.
oh, you're so positive.
I'm not kidding. It could.
April's always the optimist.
I mean, no, I'm not. I am a realistic person where I'm like we're all going to die, the world's on fire, but while you're here, do what you can. And
It's not our fault.
but it's not your fault. The pressure's off. Anything you do is going to do something amazing. Any effort we put forth makes a huge difference in these animals' lives, and therefore the people who would end up adopting them, their lives too. We get amazing success stories. But
Thank you for spinning that on a positive, because I was about to say we cannot end on this note. But, well, because we want people to come back and listen to the next one and not be totally depressed. So I feel like we should all go around now and say, like, the one thing we're grateful for. Like, me, I am so grateful to Amy today bringing in a dog she just transferred from a shelter that I'm begging to take home and foster. Not that I need anything else on my plate, but this little hairless looking thing is the most snuggly little sweet cutie, and as much as she's shut down from neglect and the way she acts, abuse, good gosh, like just seeing her in a couple of hours being able to progress, that's what like gets me through to the next day. And that's what's worth, if she ends up having an accident and, right away you're like, I'm already tired, now I gotta clean this up. But the snuggles and the looks that they give you when it's like, it's a visual thank you from an animal.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I don't know. So that is mine, and I thank you for bringing her in for snuggles.
You're stay, Uncle. I started up. Bring her.
I'll stay.
All right, Courtney, you go next. One thing you are grateful for.
As the volunteer coordinator, I feel obligatory to mention I appreciate our volunteers. A lot of our volunteers that come in and help lift a lot of load off of our shoulders may not be able to volunteer. We get a lot of students and older people who are volunteers, and they're here doing what they can. It's not fostering, but it's very much a huge help, and I do appreciate that.
Absolutely.
We all do. Yeah, we could not do it without them.
No, this room, there'd be nowhere to sit. It'd be filled with donations, which again, we appreciate.
Yes.
We're very lucky for it.
yes. As they sit next to bags and bags and bags of dog food.
Yeah, I said there was like spots to sit, not that it was empty. Kayla, one thing you're grateful for.
Well, my initial thought was the thing that Lisa sent, because I get to go home to a bajillion cat cuddles after I clean out the diarrhea, sickly kittens, and, no baby. But Courtney did provide me. I am grateful. I have some fantastic fosters, and just they are the nicest people. The volunteers too, but the fosters are the ones who usually call me on the weekends, and I love them so much that it's okay. But they'll just randomly reach out and remind me that we can help you, right? And they're so sweet. They're perfect. I love them to death, almost as much as I love all of the kittens.
Amy, one thing you're grateful for.
Oh gosh, that's hard. I can't do that. I would say we have an amazing core group of fosters. I mean, I can call them any time, day or night. If an animal is in emergency, they will come. So I'm super appreciative of them. They also know when I am stressed beyond max, and they dig in and try to help me as much as possible, which I appreciate that. I actually am super appreciative of LCHS and the organization because they give me the freedom to run this program like I see fit and back me on it. So I definitely appreciate that. And also the dogs. Like through the years, I will tell you, I've learned more from the dogs than it's crazy. Like every single dog that I spend time with will teach you something. It may be something small, it may be something huge, but they will teach you. And, and it is amazing, like April said, to get those, I recently had someone contact me that I adopted the dog 10 years ago. And he just wrote me a letter and the dog passed. The dog was not a puppy when he adopted it. And he just wrote me a letter and said, this is what this dog did for me. And it was amazing.
April, one thing you're grateful for.
One thing I'm grateful for. If I had to pick one thing, I would say leadership. We have excellent leadership in Lisa, and she is one of those people I also say, there's no job she wouldn't do. Nothing here that she wouldn't just roll up her sleeves and do. And that's what a leader is as opposed to a boss.
Legitimately, while we were setting up for this podcast, Lisa was bringing in dog food.
Yeah.
No. And then if I have a second one, it would definitely be our donors and supporters, because without them, none of this would be possible. And we really do have some really dedicated donors.
Good deal. I'll go last, and I'll say one thing I'm grateful for that I feel like we didn't touch on, because I'm grateful for all the things that have been brought up so far, but I'm going to say our vet partners. Our the way that they step up and they take in animals if it's an emergency, if we feel it's an emergency, or I feel it's an emergency, and they step up to foster. They make time for us and they make time for the animals, and it's a lot that they take on for us, and I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Can we name all of the clinics? Sure. Yeah, we've got Paws and Claws, Buck Lake, Ox Bottom, Animal Aid, Tally Spay, North Florida,
Allied. Capital Vet Specialist.
Capital Vet Specialist. Yeah,
I mean, they are special.
they are.
Simulator.
They are specialists, and we have to utilize them more than we'd like to.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, definitely grateful for them. They've saved a lot of my favorites. So,
And those are our core group, but there are other vet clinics in town and even outside of town too. When we have a situation arise, there are a couple of vet clinics that we reach out to, and they respect LCHS and they work with us too. So some of those we always want to pry into a little bit more.
And I'm grateful that my bottled baby kitten is latching regularly.
Yay! Oh, that is a huge deal.
Yes. It's nice. All right, so we did it. We ended on a positive note.
Yay.
Thank you if you are listening for making it this far, and we will see you next time. We will hope to do a monthly podcast to keep you guys up to date on where we're at and what's going on. Thank you.
Years of animal welfare experience sitting at this table combined.
Pretty impressive.
That's a long time.
It's kind of legit.
A little bit.
Not that anyone
We kind of know what we're
believes
talking
us.
about.
Yeah.
We kind of do.
Yeah, we kind of did.
Just a little.